Today's podcast is sponsored by Outreach.io. Every revenue team suffers a sales execution gap, the gap between the potential revenue of an organization and the actual revenue it achieves. To innovate, grow, and win, leaders must embrace technology to improve their team's sales execution. When organizations close the gap and execute at their full potential, they win more deals with less effort, forecast without guesswork, and deliver a better customer experience. Over 5,000 global customers trust Outreach as their sales execution platform. Find out why Outreach is the right solution for your team at click.outreach.io/side.
Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals. You're on another episode of The Other Side of Sales. My name's Evan Patterson, and I'm joined with
Ryan Woodard.
And we have a special guest today, Jamie Neubeck, BDR at Reprise. How's it going, Jamie?
It's going good. Thank you, Evan.
And that's the intro. That's it. And we'll keep this in. Jamie, we were really looking forward to speaking with you, mainly because, well, one, I've worked with you, so I understand that you've had an extremely inspiring story prior to you working as a BDR and working in tech. But at the same time, whether it's an inspiring story, the minute you got into it, you just do so damn well. You're really, really good. You could have told me you've been doing this for 20 years and I all would have believed you. It's fantastic. So I just want to know, what's the secret sauce? Why are you so damn good?
There honestly isn't a secret sauce. I wish there were. But honestly, what it is, in one sentence, sum it up, it is breaking through the masses and making noise so that you're heard. Yeah. And you can do that a million different ways. People do it, but I usually use memes, poems, whatever I can do that's different, that's going to make someone pause and be like, wait a minute, that's not my usual. When talking to sales leaders, I can't even do it seriously. Like I can't even. So that's it. Breaking through the noise of the masses.
And Jamie, how did you, who, I guess, first allowed you to kind of put your own spin on your BDR outreach? And because I feel like a lot of the training is like hey, Jamie, I'm blah, 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 or sales leaders tell me.
I started at Reprise. That is my very first tech job. Evan was actually probably the main person that trained me. And luckily, however you want to look at it, I came at a point where there was no rock solid training program. This is the way it's going to be. Now we have different things implemented where this is the way you learn. This is the way, you learn different channels. But back then it was kind of just, I kind of took some pieces, figured it out, got a little training here, a little training there, asked Evan 1,000 questions. And
they were all great questions.
Figured it out. And there was no, this is what you have to send out. So I just decided to write a poem about Reprise. And then I wrote a poem about somebody ghosting a meeting. And then I wrote a poem about somebody getting funding. And it just kept going and going till, I noticed I started getting some traction. So it was like, let me just keep doing this,
That's awesome. I find that even if you give that that freedom to kind of express yourself for BDRs, they still tend to fall into wanting to do the formal, they're afraid almost to be vulnerable and just let their true self show. How did, other than Evan really giving you the green light, were there any moments where you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this, or this is uncomfortable?
I tell this to the new BDRs all the time, because everyone's like, well, you make quota every month or you're at the top. I'm like, you want to hear something funny? The first month when I had a ramp quota of 3, I got 0. So every single BDR on the team had booked meetings, but me. I was the last person to book meetings. I was like, this is not, I started thinking, is this even for me? Because I was Googling and seeing what other people were doing. And I was seeing these uniform letters and these, the email we've all probably gotten 4,000 times. And I can't even imagine I get 4,000 a day, let alone a VP or a director.
Yeah.
So I was going with the flow, and then it wasn't flowing. So I wasn't flowing like the flow is supposed to. So I was like, I got to do something different, like, or I'm gonna like fail at this. So that's when I was like, think, like I, did some videos, stuff like that, started playing around with this or that. But back when I was younger, I wrote a lot of poems. So I was like, why don't I try that again? I hadn't probably wrote a poem in 20 years, 30 years, but I was like, why not? And it clicked.
That's awesome.
I've seen some of the stuff that you did when I was while we were still there in the overlap, and it just like I considered myself creative when it came to outreach, but you just throw the rule book out the window. Like you kept the parts that worked, right? Like strong CTA and like make it make sense, right? You kept it simple. You didn't use too much jargon. You led with like relevancy. It wasn't just like personalization for the sake of personalization. But at the same time, it was just like the format and all the rules about like what to say and how to say it and the length and the text and the context of this. You just threw it all out the window, it felt like, and it worked.
I didn't know what else to do. And some of it, I couldn't write a poem every time. So there was a lot of personalization and I remember 2 or 3 meetings where they would say to my AE, like I ignored her first email and she slammed me back with this cheeky email like, so you want to ignore me, do you?
Yeah.
And then he goes like, I was like, well, okay. And that, it resonates with most, I have a couple people that haven't been receptive.
Can't make everyone happy. Yeah.
No, you can't. But for the most part, I would literally say 99% have been very receptive. I like your outreach. Recently there was a CMO that said like, I'm actually going to, I promise not to steal your poems, but we're going to implement something like this in our program because this got my attention.
Yeah.
And that stands out to me, so
flattery's like the highest form of compliment, or
absolutely.
But did they book a demo? Because if they didn't, that's good. Because I've had that happen and they didn't book a demo. I'm like, oh, so you mean to tell me you got free training?
I constantly get, I'm not interested, but would you like a job? It's like,
that's so rude. Like,
that is
really
so rude. At least book a meeting to try to get me.
I pretend you're interested. Like
buying me dinner before you
thank you. I'm like, you just cost me insert commission here.
Like just come on over here. I don't want your meeting, but come on over here. Like, no. I'm
laughing because it's true. I've been in that boat. I've seen you be in that boat. I have no words for like how insulting that behavior is.
It's crazy.
I know when people ask me the question of like why I do weird outreach stuff, it's usually because of life experience and having seen some shit, for lack of a better word, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the reasons you and I click so well is we've both seen some shit, right?
We've seen a couple things here and there.
Yeah, very different things. So, so with that in mind, like, what about your life experience, especially since you had a later start into tech than most? Also, I would guess outside looking in, that's got a big part of your success story. To be quite honest,
it is honestly. I truly believe if I would have done this back when I was 21 or anything like that, when I was wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and had no clue that anything bad ever happened in the world, it wouldn't be the same. I feel like I would have conformed and just stuck to those, but when you go through things and what I've been through, back when I was in my younger 20s, I ended up getting into a car accident. And then at the same time, coincided with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
So those two things together And I probably leaned more on the pain of the car accident than it was actually there. I got hooked on opiates, and it became a on and off 15-year struggle where literally, not that many people dabble when it comes to opiates, but
Yeah.
I mean, I literally went to 11 rehabs. I overdosed 5 times. One of the times literally was dead, pronounced, and one
Wow.
EMT decided to put 2 things of adrenaline in each side of my neck, and my heart started again. And they were like, she's going to be brain dead probably because it's been 13 minutes. So, and then they had to wait for me to wake up, and I had no brain damage. So, I mean, it's by all intents and purposes, I know, like, once I made it through that storm and I went to my 11th rehab, it was a long-term rehab, and that's what worked. Unfortunately, in our system, if you don't have $50,000 to $100,000, you go through a system and you get 14 to 21 days at a rehab, which nowadays it's more like 7 to 14. And that's not, you don't even come out of the fog in that time, let alone get better or get any kind of recovery. So I've been clean now over 11 years. Thank you. January 26th of 2011 was the first day that I spent sober. It wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but going through that and coming through that, without a doubt, even in the hardest times, number one, nothing could be harder. Nothing that I've come up against even holds a candle. And number two, I know I have a purpose. Like, I know I have a purpose. I know, like, you almost feel like you can achieve anything at that point. Like, I outran the devil. Like, what can't I do? So it kind of pushes me to keep going. You can do this. You know, you can do this. My God, you did that. You can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not much you can say that I can't do because I did that. So it definitely influences all my successes, all my decisions, everything I do.
I think
that's powerful.
That's just, I'm a little bit speechless, in a good way. I hope to be clear. And apologies if you mentioned it before. This is me asking to learn here. You mentioned long term. I was aware of the short term and how it's not good enough, right? Because this is not a quick band-aid fix. This isn't like when I had my gallbladder surgery.
Exactly.
I was out 3 hours after. Like, this isn't a well-oiled machine. It takes more time. No. How long is the average, or in your experience, maybe how long yours was for long term, I guess? And would you say that that's what more of them should be like?
It is, long term is considered 6 months to a year.
Okay.
And that is when, and there's so many studies that have been done that it takes up to 3 months before your body even begins, your brain starts to even chemically repair itself at all. So when you're walking out of a rehab at 14 to 21 days, yes, your body may be physically detoxed, meaning you don't need to wake up and have opiates that morning to be well, but you're still very much addicted. Like, your
rewiring,
your brain, your chemistry. And 9 times out of 10, 14 to 21 days is not that long to change your whole life, your peer group, your way of thinking. And I remember in that long-term rehab, and this stuck with me forever, my counselor, which her name was Miss Whitney, God rest her soul, she passed on, but she looked at me and said, Jamie, you only have to do 2 things to stay clean. And I'm like, what? After 15 years and 11, I'm like, what? She's like, you just have to change everything you think and everything you do. And I'm like, are you serious right now? And like, oh my God. She goes, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Like, when you get home, if you want to go out the front door, go out the back. If you want, if you want to go for a ride, stay home. Like, you can't trust your decisions. Your way of thinking is so warped at the core that you have to change everything. And it literally was changing everything, meaning I had to leave my son's father, who I'd been with for 15 years. I had to change my peer group, was him, his family. I had to leave it all behind, which he actually passed away from an overdose in 2016. So I would have been sitting right next to him. You know what I'm saying? Like he kept going, I pulled back, and that's what happens. And they're not kidding when they say jails, institutions, or death. Those are the only three options at the end. There is no successful drug addicts. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Look at different rock stars, or, there's no other way out besides going to prison, jail, or death.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Unfortunately, your story hits close to home. My cousin took his own life after battling with opioids in my grandma's house. It was kind of one of her last kind of memories of life before she passed away, was dealing with that and the heartache, and just seeing the impact on her too. A lot of people don't think about how the wide ranging effects of it. It doesn't just affect you or those close to you, but in her specific instance, we really started to see her deteriorate over the years from that.
Absolutely.
I think guilty conscious too, that I was in college, but I remember him wanting to come visit me in college, and I was thinking I don't want to be responsible for it's I'm trying to get my life going and so forth. I was afraid he'd come up and something bad happened and then weigh on my conscience. So I kind of, in my mind, I felt like I closed the door.
Exactly.
And then he made that decision. And so it was, it weighed on my conscience, weighed on my family's conscience.
And what you have to keep in mind, and it's really hard to separate it, but that wasn't him. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the cousin you grew up and knew and loved before he got on opiates. That's not him. I literally look back at that chick, that train wreck. I would literally right now die for my children, just to be happy, not even for their lives. Just tell me they'll be happy for the rest of their lives, and I'll gladly go. And I literally signed one over for guardianship to my mother. And luckily the other one, by the time I got all my stuff together, he was only 4. So he didn't remember too much of anything. He didn't get put in too much mess. But my other one was 14 by the time I came back and got my stuff together. There's nothing that would stop me from, I'm my mom first, but that woman, all she could do for him was to get the hell away from him. That's the best I could do for him, was to get the hell away from him and stay away from him. He never saw me high. He never been in a car in a drug house, or God. And I don't judge people that have been there, because trust me, I had family. Some people don't. What if I wouldn't have? Do you know what I'm saying? But the torture that you go through, you just don't even want to be on this earth anymore. It's so hard. It's so tiring. It's like something just attacking you every day and just jumping on you and literally just ripping you to shreds every single day. You get tired of it. You just get tired of fighting back. And luckily I am one of the very few, unfortunately, I think it's 3% that have made it past 10 years of recovery. And I don't know how, it gets chosen, who makes it and who doesn't, but it's hard. It was very hard back then to get out of it.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
That's
amazing.
A bit speechless on that one. Yeah. I can't really relate. I don't know many people that have been through that in front of me or around me. I know people in my life. I have a very close friend of mine who, a similar story, different vice, similar story, I would say. And it's been 15 years for them. And I think that you're the only 2 people, as far as I'm aware, that I've met. So,
it's not many. And that's so sad, but I understand why. It's just so hard to get away from. And if you don't have a reason to start using, use for a minute and you'll have a bazillion reasons to keep you.
You'll give yourself a reason.
Yeah, you'll so much stuff happens and you see so much stuff and you do so much stuff and you disappoint so many people and break so many hearts that you don't even want to think. You know what I'm saying?
At the risk of oversimplifying it, it's why they tell people, like, even if you aren't addicted to anything, right? It can be a slippery slope. It's why they tell people that, like, don't drink when you're upset, because then you're giving yourself permission to make that a new habit. And if you know yourself at any degree, I know me. Absolutely. I am somebody that I looked at my history. My family's a lot of gambling addicts in my family.
Yeah.
And not alive right now. A lot of them are dead, not because of gambling, but just generations in old age. But I just knew, like, oh, so addictive personalities running my family. So I applied that logic to every possible thing. Yes. Right. So whether it was drugs, alcohol, whatever,
everything.
I just don't touch it in response to a negative thing. Right. I think the closest I probably go to is weed, but that's more just medicinal.
And I'm the exact same. Like, I won't even, I'm not, someone gives me a scratch off, I'll do it. I mean, I'm not like totally just crazy about it, but I will not like start playing Keno every week, or what I'm saying? Like, I don't go to casinos, which casinos is, even though I've never had a drinking problem, I'm sure I could develop one if you give me a minute. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe you're laughing, but it's the truth. Yeah.
It's true. Like, you'll switch. I've seen it too many times where people are like, well, I had a problem with opiates, but I'm okay with drinking. Yeah. And then until they weren't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I just stay away from it all. Like, I'm 45 years old. I'm too tired to deal with that shit.
I'm 27. I'm too tired.
Well, even
that's what I'm saying.
Dealing with the pandemic. I mean, my wife is, bless her heart, she is a nurse educator. Now she's the nursing enablement and professional development manager.
Wow.
But it's at a rehab hospital, and they like shifted towards taking COVID patients and so forth, and just all the stress and the heartache that came with 2020. I mean, we both were, pretty daily. I wouldn't say like we were just getting drunk daily, but it was, hey, beer with dinner, 2 beers with dinner.
Exactly.
Or, tequila cocktail or glass of wine, all of the above. No.
I know what you're saying, though. Tons of people relapsed in 2020. It was a huge thing, like, in the substance abuse community, because I am a certified recovery coach. I do mentor a lot of people. I still go to rehabs and talk. I was on the board of directors for My Hope, which stands for Michigan Heroin Opiate Prevention and Education. So, and my husband also, by the way, is 13 years from an opiate addiction. That's so he's alongside me.
Power couple.
Yeah, we didn't know each other in drug days, thank God. But we met when we were both in recovery, and so we saw a lot of relapses during the pandemic because of loss of jobs, loneliness. People having to isolate when normally they wouldn't. NA meetings were virtual instead of actually a lot of people. AA, that's their lifeline. Yeah. And it's not the same sitting here on a computer talking to someone as it is sitting down at a coffee shop and actually having someone hugging you, or why don't you come stay night at my house and let's have a pajama party, and that, so you won't use. Now I'm alone at home.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't make it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
we can be our worst.
My husband did once again, but
we can be our worst enemy at times, and not
sure.
even know it. I think we're like giving ourselves great tips and so forth.
Right.
And I put this on LinkedIn earlier, but so be sure to comment, show me support.
Yeah,
come on, plug.
Right.
After they hit follow on the other side of sales on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
We're shameless here.
Yeah.
But my wife and I are expecting a baby girl in July. Yeah. And that was like, we obviously the wedding and everything, it was a celebration. So we, drank and had a great time.
Right.
But once it came time to start the family, that was like one thing I was like adamant about. Like, let's just, focus on that. Let's not drink.
Right.
Obviously she can't while carrying a baby. I guess she
right.
have a glass, but she's being very good and not having one at all. I can't say the same for myself for this whole 9-month period.
Right.
But
right.
I've gone from like, I think at one point it was like daily, pretty much alcohol, to like a couple times a week, to now like a couple times a month.
And that's great.
Well, I mean, I guess to your point, you mentioned like it sounds like it's easier when your drinking buddy isn't drinking as much also, which I guess goes to the point of Jamie, like your peers have to change.
Completely. That was the main thing. And that's probably why I stayed in it so long, was because I wanted to keep the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to keep Brendan's dad. So I'd come back out and say, okay, I'm not going to use, even if he does, which is a joke. Like that's haha. Like you're just gonna sit there and play Parcheesi while he's over there getting high. No, that just doesn't.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the Parcheesi part. Not the
seriously though. Like what the?
Like out of all the things you put in.
I'm gonna pick up a hobby. Sorry, drug addicts don't have hobbies.
I was thinking like, she's gonna say, I'm out here cooking dinner or filing taxes. She chooses Parcheesi.
I've never even played it before, but it sounds like it would fit in that situation. Like, cause it's that unbelievable. No one plays effing Parcheesi, and no one is gonna be playing it.
Come on, Michigan.
Michigan loves euchre, but honestly, I knew, and finally it came to the point where it was get clean or be with him.
Yeah.
It came down to literally that. And I had to choose me. And that's the difference, is I finally gave a shit about myself.
Yeah.
So that's what, unfortunately, and it sucks because it seems like you should be able to do it for your kids or your mom or your spouse, and you can't. You only will do it once you care about yourself. So that's hard. That's hard when you're doing that kind of behavior. Who cares about you? You're being a total asshole out there. Do you know what I'm saying? Why would you care about yourself? Like you're not acting like you do. So
and the stigma.
It's hard. It gets hard.
Yeah. And the stigma is like anybody that's addicted is just this selfish,
worthless, selfish
human being. And so it's like when you start trying to change those thought patterns to think about yourself, you almost start to like talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't deserve it.
Right.
You're not worthy of that type of stuff. And one thing that I love that actually started stalking you on LinkedIn, you had a post like last week or maybe the week before about, or maybe it was a comment about how you have to give. I think it was like everything, like you don't have a choice to be like selfish and accept gifts or anything. You have to give in order to like maintain this 11 years again.
Yeah. And I only get to keep what I have by giving it away.
Yeah, that was it. I loved it.
Like, and that is period. I don't get to keep this sobriety if I don't help other people find it. I don't get to keep my blessings if I just hoard them and don't give to people. Like someone can hit me up, and I promise you, if I showed you my Facebook Messenger, Jamie, and they can be on drugs. I'm not there to judge. Jamie, I'm in a hotel. I'm starving. Can you send me a pizza? Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not my job to judge that you spent $100 on drugs today. You could have afforded a pizza. You're addicted to drugs. I get it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, or I stop on the street and give someone at the light a 20, and somebody in the car says, well, what if they spend it on drugs? That's not my cross to bear. I give from my heart, and then what they do with it, that's their cross to bear. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it's like to be that person who doesn't have a place to stay, or maybe standing there sick or hasn't eaten. Give them, I just give from myself, and my blessings come back 20-fold.
Karma.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I only get to keep what I have by giving it away.
You had mentioned earlier about money doesn't solve it, right? It's but to a degree, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you mentioned the long-term problem when it comes to like, there's a rehab where that's 7 to 14 days
Right.
when it's not enough, right?
No.
So, I guess there is, to a degree, do you think that 3% would be higher if access to higher quality
Yep.
long-term rehab was
Absolutely, it would
more
be.
affordable
Because,
or readily
I mean,
available?
think about it. I went through 10, 7 to 14 days. And then I went
Yeah.
through 1 6 month and it clicked. And
Yeah.
there was nothing different about me when I walked in that door. I felt like shit about myself the first time I walked in. I felt like a bad mom. I felt like everything.
Yeah.
And I felt that way the 11th time. As a matter of fact, I felt worse walking in the 11th
Yeah.
time than I did the first, second, third, fourth, I felt worse every time, but it worked because I got myself detoxed, clean. My mind was clear, and I actually could go through these different classes of trauma,
Yeah.
triggers, trauma,
Yeah.
healthy relationships, all these different aspects that factors.
There's a
that
level
make
of like
up a drug addict.
PTSD therapy, basically.
Yeah,
it
there is
sounds like.
that. Also, you wouldn't believe how many people have PTSD. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you don't have it going into the addiction, you will have it hanging out at, 7 and Gratiot, those kind of areas. You will have it.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I forgot we're both from the same part of the country.
Yeah, we're both like a half hour. He grew up a half hour away from where I live. So in Detroit, it's no joke. And you see things that you see in movies. You know what I'm saying? Like New Jack City type stuff.
Yeah, like the northwest side of Detroit, it fits the stereotype.
And you have PTSD. Like it. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a joke. You'd see on the news every night, we see like Devil's Night and people burning down houses. No, all the houses were on fire and guns are going off. And I'm like crawling across the yard. Like, what the? It's like,
I'll translate for the non-Michiganders. Devil's Night is, I thought everybody knew what Devil's Night was until I left.
Oh, they don't?
Detroit. Yeah, no, I was shocked.
I don't know.
So Devil's Night it's a thing that's talked about more in Metro Detroit, but the night before Halloween, the activities that Jamie just outlined, it's not as big of a deal now, but
no, they call it Angels Night now.
Yeah, rebranding it. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you saw me eye roll so hard my eyes almost fell out of my head.
Yeah.
But like from like I think it was like the 50s all the way up until like about 2010ish, like right after the housing crash or whatever it was, right? There was a lot of what you just outlined, like people blowing up houses, and I don't mean setting them on fire, blowing them up. And it wasn't just abandoned homes. We're talking like fully occupied homes, and it wasn't just bad places. It was more common in bad, for lack of a better word, like neighborhoods that were not with resources, right? Especially low income areas predominantly, and unfortunately as a result of systemic racism and segregation, communities that were mostly Black communities. You would see this on the news, and the thing was, I'm not an expert when it comes to this, but I remember watching it, and you're not kidding, it was like a Hollywood movie.
And they show the good parts on the news. Like, there's like people walking around there. I remember looking over, there's a woman on fire. Like, I'm just like, you got to be like, this cannot be. I felt like I walked on a movie set. Yeah. And I know a lot of it had to do with like, there was a lot of links between that and drug use. So you will definitely have PTSD if you decide to take on a drug addiction because of the things that happen to you, things you see. It's insane because it's not a good world, obviously. Yeah, you always leave me speechless. I think it's just like there's so many parallels between what you've gone through and other people that we've had on this podcast and other people that I've met. I just think just what frustrates me is like, I know we're talking to that 3%, and it actually is like, as much as I am proud of you, it's frustrating that it's only 3%. It's so frustrating. And honestly, I quit college 21 credits shy of graduation with the 3.99 GPA because I was going into substance abuse psychology. And in that almost 4 years, I mentored, went through internships, went and volunteered at rehabs, and probably out of the, let's say, 40 people I helped, 30 of them died. And the other, I think there's one that I can tell you right now is clean out of the 40 or 50. Most of them are passed on from overdoses. And I realized, like, I can't do this. Like, this is soul crushing every day.
Yeah.
I can still help people and mentor people, but I can't do this 40 hours a week. Like, I can't lose people like this every week. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm just not built for it. So I quit 21 credits before I graduated. I was like, nope, can't do it.
I mean, and you have had this conversation. Education and smarts and intelligence are not synonymous, you know?
No.
So yeah, Jamie, and I'm not just saying this because we're on a podcast. I've said this offline too. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met. You pick up on stuff so quick, it's absurd. It's almost a little offensive. I'm kidding. How like quick you are, because I'm just like, I get whiplash. And I'm like, no, I'm kidding. It's not offensive at all.
I know. I totally.
Jamie have a very unique relationship to any of our listeners.
Yes, we do. Trust me. I'm not offended whatsoever.
No, I think it's just you and me tell it like it is. We have very blunt, direct personalities.
Yeah.
So like anything that we've discussed in this podcast, a lot of things have, dark roots and all, but I think what the 3% has in common is finding that silver lining and that light that you can like hang on to make it brighter and push through. And you will never get rid of the darkness, but it will get really diminished. It won't be there as much, right? It gets shouted. You get light pollution on purpose, basically. Outside of looking in, it just seems like you're extremely empathetic, but you're not. There's a curse of being empathetic that I find, where people are so empathetic they forget to take care of themselves in the process.
Yeah.
And part of me is curious to know: do you think that the nature of what you've been through is why you're so good at being so empathetic, while also really good at taking care of yourself at the same time? And people are usually good at one or the other, and you seem to be really good at both.
Trust me, it was a total tug of war most of my life. I've just gotten the balancing act really down in the past probably 5-6 years. Because in the beginning, when I first got clean, I wanted to give my all to get other people clean, and I would get in bad situations. Especially like my son's aunt, who is the other person I hung out with during my addiction. She was still in her addiction, and she would call me and, I'm ready to get clean and I need you to come get me. And it's 2 a.m. and she's in Detroit. And I went, and it was one time, and I was like, I can't. And I'm thinking, she's getting in my car. I don't know what's in her purse. I don't know what she's, you know what I'm saying? I could get pulled over. I could get pulled over. I could get taken away. I could start this whole thing. I could lose everything just by helping her. And luckily I got her to a hotel and blah, blah, blah. And everything turned out fine that night for me. She's still in addiction, but that was back in 2013. And that was the last time I made that decision. I will not put myself in that type of situation anymore. I'll call you an Uber. I'll pay for an Uber, but I'm not coming to get you myself no more. I'm not putting myself in danger anymore at the expense of anyone, even if I want to help you so badly. I can't sacrifice myself anymore, so that balancing act took a while, but I am very empathetic to everybody who goes through any kind of struggle, because I get it. I understand it, and I understand what it's like to be, the stigma, like you were talking about. I understand what people look at you and think you're a useless, junkie, worthless piece of crap that needs to die. I've been told that by cops, nonetheless. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been there, where I've been at the bottom of many different barrels. So I can be empathetic to different people in different situations, even if it doesn't match my exact situation. I know that shit happens. I know that I don't judge no one for nothing, because how can I? How can I? You know what I'm saying? So it definitely made me a more empathetic person.
I'm going to hit you guys with a tough question that often comes up in Black communities when talking about addiction. Is it always seems like when when these issues impact specifically the Black community, nobody really cares about it.
Right.
But then once, people start seeing their brothers, sisters, cousins, family members that look and like them, talk like them, start struggling with addiction, then all these resources become available.
Yeah, randomly.
True. It is true. I'm from Oakland County, which is one of the richer counties in the nation. And Wayne County is Detroit. The difference between the help that's available there, and they're Detroit is predominantly African American. The help that is down there compared to the help I have available to me today sitting here is night and day. They don't even get the 7 to 14 days. They don't get that. And you're right. It is a lot of times. I've been in different rehabs, different peer groups where I am a Caucasian drug addict sitting next to an African American drug addict, and we're treated totally different. We're totally treated differently. I am looked at I guess it would be called the white privilege, and that's true. It as much as people hate to admit that it exists, or no, I don't have privilege, I've been through hard stuff. They don't understand that's not what it means. It doesn't mean you haven't been through hard shit. I've been through hard shit, but there are many doors that opened for me to get better, or hands that reached out to help me that don't reach out to the African American community. And I'm not saying every single person, and I'm not saying this is just, this is a absolute, but it is a problem. And I've seen it with my own eyes, and it's sickening. It really is.
And when you add in like the glorification of drug dealing, gang banging, so forth, it's like where do you find it's, and I'm not expecting you guys to have an answer, but it's almost like where do you expect these people to find hope even, or to start taking the necessary steps to beat addiction? It's now you're when you talk about the 3%, now my mind's like, I'm curious what's like the demographic breakdown.
Absolutely. I don't know the demographic.
Is the are African Americans like dragging that down from is it maybe closer to 7 or 10% in white Americans?
That'd be interesting to know, and I'm sure there's statistics out there, but I literally just watched a documentary 2 days ago where it was about a police officer, an African American police officer, and he said, when growing up, we didn't have doctors, lawyers to look up to. We had drug dealers who had the nice cars and all the money, and they'd buy us new shoes, and they'd take us and buy us ice cream at the party store. That's who we wanted to be, because that's who we had to look up to. We didn't have your doctors and lawyers and all that to look up to. And it was like, really like hit me like, wow.
Yeah.
I recently watched one on like Vancouver's drug addiction. It's just so crazy because it's like right in the heart of downtown Vancouver. It's very capitalist type environment. And there's just like, a huge like section where they've basically like they've gentrified everything around that area where it's unaffordable. And then they've just cornered these people into this like little square block of
it's almost like it's segregation of its own accord, basically.
The different type of you guys over here, out of sight, out of mind ish, then we can go about our, corporate.
There's many cities that I'm into documentaries, by the way. There was another one where
the whole team here is.
They took one of those parking, just like, regular parking lot that people usually pay to get into, and they put tall fences, put tarps around it, and tent, and then they could take all the homeless population, drug addicts out of the doorways of the downtown area and just put them in that parking lot. And the fence is so high, no one can see them. The cops don't go in there and bother them. It's just kind of like an agreement, silent agreement. You stay in there and do what you do. We'll leave you alone, but we don't want to see you.
It's like those cities. I can't remember what it is. I know there's a couple cities in Texas where like being homeless is illegal. And they ship people literally on buses out of the city and drop them off in other cities. Like, to your point, and there's also like the anti-homelessness architecture stuff that we could go on a 10-hour rant on. And I mean, I live in Chicago. It's a big city, and I live in an area that is Yeah, it's post gentrification, to be completely honest. I live in
Yeah.
Lakeview, Wrigleyville, Boys Town. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, 20, 30 years ago, this was not the place to be. And it's now like top 20 most like
Right.
demanded neighborhoods to live in,
Right.
right? And I didn't even honestly, I didn't even know any of this until I moved here, to be honest. Um, but you still see it in some parts of the city that are unfortunately in the midst of gentrification, or they're bordering a next target for gentrification, or those places where everyone kind of congregates in Chicago downtown, right? Or the Loop, as we would say here, right?
Yeah.
And I was downtown last weekend with my partners to go see a musical, and I used to work downtown, and you see homeless people all the time, and I don't have to be an expert on drugs to
Right.
know when someone's on drugs.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And maybe it's because of my upbringing, but I've never felt endangered. I more feel sorry,
Yeah.
because it's like I could be walking past the next super genius, and they could have been a life-changing entrepreneur or philanthropist or musician or artist or whatever, and it's just Lord knows what type of untapped potential I'm walking past because of some
Right.
disease that was induced by
Yeah.
insert drug here, right? And
Yeah.
it's really frustrating to see it, and I'm seeing more and more anti-homelessness measures
I know.
being placed here in Chicago, and it's frustrating, and it's hard. It's hurtful.
Horrible.
It's horrible.
It is. It's
Detroit's
scary.
got the same problem.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
big
it.
time. Big
Worked
time.
there too, in downtown. Yeah.
Everywhere.
I mean,
It's becoming
every
everywhere.
urban, yeah,
Yeah.
it's nobody's, and even rural areas now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's no corner is left untouched. It's
No.
like the Verizon T-Mobile map. It's everywhere. Coverage is everywhere on this stuff.
Oh,
And one thing that like really, it makes me feel like, I don't know, I always try to at least never think of that, I guess, like, not that I'm not worthy of something, but to look at the parents that I got and then look at their siblings, it's like, how?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
my dad's brothers either struggled with, alcoholism or, some sort of addiction. My mom's sister struggled with all of it, meth, alcohol, so forth. And then my parents had, like, I think I saw my dad growing up drink a beer like twice.
Right.
I've never seen my mom drink. So it's like, it just makes you like, one, eternally grateful for the hand you're dealt, because, we don't get to choose
Yeah.
who we're born to. And then optimistic that, like, the example they set is one thing that I'll continue to try to do. And to all the people, listeners or whatnot, that don't have that fortunate upbringing, you have, and I'm not saying like as a to try and like I'm struggling for the words, but like, you do have the power to break that chain of trauma and that chain.
You're not trying to oversimplify it.
Yeah, like traumatic generational
exactly.
Someone's got to
chain.
break the chain.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
so Jamie's a great example of just the sheer grit to get through that. And that grit, not to like change topics, is something that I feel like applies to successful SDRs. Like, there's talent, there's being, cheeky, but a big part of that can't be coached, can't be taught, is just grit and determination. And I think that's a huge part of why you're so successful as a BDR as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like I said, if I had just sat here in my little world and just bopped along and never ran into any, I think about me as like 18 years old, just so naive and bopping around, just thinking the world was all peaches. I probably wouldn't be near the person I am as a mother, as a SDR, anything, because back then it was, you don't fight for things, or you don't have that push because you've never been through anything. So it's just kind of like, you don't really, you know what I'm saying? You don't have that, whatever it is, that pushes you. Like even like this month, I'm not moving right along like I usually do as a BDR. I'm not booking dozen meetings, like boom, boom, boom. And my brain will tell me like, oh, well, you're just doing bad. And then the other side will be like, get the hell, get up. Like, what are you even talking about? Get on the damn computer, go write a damn poem or go write an email or go call someone and book a damn meeting. Like, you don't get
You
to
sound like
sit
my
down.
mom in the morning when I was a teenager who wouldn't get out of bed to do my homework.
Exactly. Like, you don't get to sit down and tap out. You don't get to do that. Get up. Go book your damn meetings. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an internal voice that's like, you've been through too much to tap over some damn meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like, get up.
Yeah,
Like,
I think you and I have talked about this. Like, if we can survive that, this is nothing, right? Yeah. So
Right.
why are you acting like this?
Exactly.
It's
like,
a conversation.
Quit throwing a tantrum and go get in front of your damn computer. Like,
Yeah,
seriously.
I think the key takeaway here for listeners on that part though is like, have the feeling, like experience the feeling.
Oh yeah,
it's the feeding into it is the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the whole, I hate, and I know, and I use the word hate here literally. People listen to your emotions. It's control your emotions. Control your emotions. No, don't control your emotions. Listen to them. You learn from them. They're quite literally your body's way of telling you what you need,
exactly,
or don't need.
But don't lay down in them. And don't just go down.
Don't jump in the hot tub with them.
I'm not going to make quota.
Like this is not. Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah,
I'm just going to stop trying it. I'm not going to do it. No.
Well, one thing you're not going to be quitting is me and Ryan are going to drill you on some super important, life-changing, if you get these wrong, people's lives are ruined, rapid fire questions. That was a joke in case you didn't understand nuance, listeners. Because I know some of you are going to be in the comments going, Evan, that was so insensitive. Good. That was the point. It's a joke.
Don't worry.
Anyways.
I will save your lives. Let's go.
Yes. Watch. Jamie's got this question doesn't help anyone. I know. That's why. So anyways, I'm going to pass it off to Ryan to ask the first one because I know he's expecting me to ask the first one. And then I'll go to the second one and we'll go from there. You do not need to overthink these. This is not a dissertation for your master's theory course. Okay. We're not trying to get your 21 missing credits in 15 minutes here.
Hey, she's ready. She's cracking knuckles.
I'm ready.
It's that grit.
Shoulders.
It's that grit. It's that Leo's Coney Island. And if you're from Detroit, I know you know what I'm talking about. All right, continue.
I just had it for lunch. I'm not kidding. I'm not lying.
They just opened one up here, by the way. Like we'll talk after this. All right.
And go.
All right. What's your morning routine?
Leo's.
I wake up at 4 a.m. because I have no idea why I'm like a rooster. I wake up at 4. And then I literally usually get on the computer, check LinkedIn. I ain't going to lie. Check Facebook, get going for the day. And then I'm up here by 8 o'clock, eat some breakfast, drink my Plexus, come up here and I'm ready to roll.
4 in the morning. There is not enough money in the world to get me up at 4 in the morning.
You didn't ask what time I went to bed though.
Yeah. When do you go to bed?
Like 9. I'm like ancient. Listen,
some of us aren't here to judge. Some of us. I'm kidding. I love you, Taylor.
I can't do it. The earliest, like I got good at 6 a.m. and now I just wake up at 6 a.m. on my own. But
I don't know what happened. 4 a.m. I'm like, ding. It's horrible.
Then I have a Great Dane and she looks at me and so she is like, hey, you're kind of awake. Can I jump in the bed with you? And I'm like, come on. Yeah. So usually I don't get out of bed. I'll just like play with her. I feel like it's like I need to spend a little time.
Yeah, that time. I do the same thing with my dogs. they keep my eyes open and they're right there.
I gotta stop making jokes about it because as I get into my late 20s, I've noticed like having worked a few jobs that are like 9 to 5-ish, right?
Yeah.
I'm starting to wake up before my alarms go off, like within like 10, 15-ish minutes.
That's where it starts.
Yeah. So, and I've been telling more and more people this, and like my boss was saying it like when I was in Boston last week. She's like, yeah, this is how it starts. You start waking up without an alarm, right on dot,
and then you
on your days off. Yeah, and then eventually you're gonna stop having an alarm.
Yeah.
And they cringe because my partner, who's like 5 years older than me, doesn't use an alarm for that reason. So I know it's not that far off. I'm turning the corner.
Evan,
I'm turning the corner.
It's
the gray
coming.
hair, it's all in here. Like it's
I've got like 3 gray
Yeah.
hairs. I expect once this baby comes, it's just gonna.
oh yeah,
This
it's
is
all
called
here.
Clairol.
It's all here. It's all
Miss Clairol.
yes. All right. For this next question, this one, of course, you have to have sources and MLA formats and the whole. I'm kidding. Pick one person who has had a significant impact on your career.
I'm gonna go with Tony De Leon, Tonito.
Yes, Tonito.
He was my AE. That's how we started. Actually, we were the only 2 that started on May 17th together.
Yep.
He was the AE, I was the BDR. So we started the same exact day, and we kind of got thrown in some trainings together. So he was kind of like my first, him and Evan were like the first 2 people I really interacted with.
Yeah.
And now he went from my AE to my manager. He went to a BDR manager, and recently he's now a senior BDR manager. So he is a great coach. He encourages me. He's there for me no matter what. Professionally, if I'm dealing with something out of work, he encourages me to take care of that. He's just been a really good motivator, a very good coach, and he knows his stuff. And I mean, he honestly is somebody I respect, not only just respect, but I listen to, because I know that, if you want what someone has, do what they do, listen, you listen to them because they know what you're talking about. So
You emulate it. Yeah.
definitely him.
Well, speaking of listening, what's your you like that segue?
It's a good segue. Ooh.
What's your pump up song?
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Well,
smooth like butter. That segue
have-
right there.
usually it's either Eye of the Tiger. I'm not kidding. If I have to make cold calls,
Some of us aren't here to judge.
Dun, dun,
some of us.
dun,
And
dun,
then the other one is, tonight's gonna be a good night.
Oh, I got a feeling by
Black
the
Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
That one.
Okay.
Those 2 get me
All right.
going.
The 90s baby is in love with the I Got a Feeling by Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
The Eye, the Tiger. It's like what half of our podcast guests, right? It's like,
Oprah had a flash mob and she didn't know about it. She was doing a big show, and I think it was Chicago. I don't know.
well, she's the film here.
She was on the stage with the Black Eyed Peas. They were performing, and the whole crowd of, I'd say, 100,000 people did a flash mob.
Probably.
And it was to that song, and it started in like the front row, and pretty soon it was just the whole damn city.
That's just funny. That sounds like something.
I don't know. It might have something to do with my love of the song.
Chicago's a weird place. I mean, I love it here, but we do some weird things here.
Yeah,
And
it was a
River
little
Green.
odd.
We
And you
throw
guys
ducks
gave
in the
us
water.
Kanye. So
I'm not from Chicago. I just live here.
There you go.
Okay. I mean, I'm from Detroit, which is like no better. Actually, I'm from Macomb, which is worse. So it's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Other than wishing I moved out of Macomb earlier, because that's how I would answer this question. What is one thing you wish you had learned earlier?
One thing I wish I would have learned earlier is to put myself first, and that men ain't where it's at. Like a boyfriend, a significant other really doesn't matter at the end of the day if it comes at the sacrifice of your soul. So like seriously, you put a lot of us do growing up, you put all your chips in that basket.
I'm laughing because I relate. Yeah.
Blow that basket up. If they are unhealthy, it's not worth it. It's really not. It's not.
I know you'll appreciate this joke. Was it somebody goes like, well, you're gay, you like men? I'm like, no, don't get it twisted. I'm attracted to men. I didn't say I like them.
There you go. That about explains. That sums it up.
our audience is like, what is with this podcast?
I'm sitting here with two men talking about, yeah, you got it.
Tangents. All right. Ryan,
We
over to
suck.
you.
No.
Mess.
You
All
guys
right.
don't suck. You just don't rule as much as women. That's all.
Fair enough. And a lot
Also,
of
gay
us
men
are.
are in a different category. Don't lump me
We'll
in.
give
I didn't
you
say we were
that.
better than women. I just said we were a step up. Sorry, Ryan.
I will give you that. I will.
Was it Michelle
might-
Wolf or whatever? The comedian was like, gay men are the V2 of men. We're
Not
God's,
all of
like,
us
second
are
take.
V1.
Oh, Ryan's cool. What's up? Ryan, you got the next question.
I do. What book has had the biggest impact on your sales career?
Fanatical Prospecting.
Ooh, I like that one.
It was.
That's a classic.
It was like really good. I actually just read it this weekend. I've been sitting there. It's been sitting there, and I've been meaning to read it. And this weekend, I was like, I've heard so much about it, and I'm like, I have to know what all the fuss is about. And I don't even know the words to put to it, but it changed my mindset on a lot of different things, and mindset is so important.
That's
when it
more than
comes
half
to
the game
everything.
in an SDR role.
It really is. It's more than half the game of everything. You know what I'm saying? Like every single thing in life, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
And that's like,
print that on a t-shirt and sell it.
yeah, seriously. And that's how it is.
Cross stitch that on your yoga pants.
Yeah.
Also, why did I say that? Am I okay? So on that note of being okay,
I'm glad you did though.
I think one of us. What's one way someone could have been a better ally to you, and why is it not when Evan made that joke?
Honestly, the me of today, like my parents decided to use tough love with me when I was back then. And back then I thought they were just the most evil people on earth for doing so. But if they wouldn't have done so, I would have probably never gotten clean, because why? For what?
Hindsight's 50-50. So
yeah. So to be a better ally to me, honestly, I wish someone, and it's hard because all the people around me were right where I was at, someone would have pulled me away and said, you're better than this, or let's get the F out of here, or you know what I'm saying? Like if someone would have tried to just take me to something positive, not my parents, because and you don't listen to them anyway.
Oh yeah, your mom and dad.
About.
Yeah, it's the whole like mom and dad says you're great at this, but your friend says the same thing. It means more coming from them than your parents.
Parents have no clue, and I understand. I look at my children now, and I'm like, I know you think I have no clue what I'm talking about, but I do. In 30 years, you're gonna look back and be like, I should have just listened. Honestly, if I just would have listened to my mom, if you would listen to your mom, we'd all be better. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Remind me to call and apologize after this.
Exactly.
To be quite honest. All right, Ryan, speaking of allyship, take it away.
What's one way you're working to be a better ally for others?
Literally, I'm just supporting people where they need supported. Like if I see, like if Evan makes a post that somebody's saying this or that to him, well, I'm coming hard. I mean, he doesn't ever name anybody, but I'll like put in the comments,
Not
like
publicly.
Like whoever you are absolutely barking up the wrong tree. Why don't you come out and say this publicly? You know what I'm saying? Like when people need somebody to have their back, whether it's something that has to do with you, whether it's something if you care about somebody, you have their back.
Yeah.
Period. You know what I'm saying? And you're an ally to them, regardless. Like he stands for the LGBTQ community. I'm not gay. I don't have to be gay to support that whole community. Do you know what I'm saying? Just like somebody doesn't have to be on drugs to support drug addicts, or, and that goes for any, and I don't have to be African American to support African Americans. I don't people that are struggling need, and I say this all the time, like I'll go on one of the public pages in Detroit, until we all get together and join this fight with Black Lives Matters and with the African American, until the white people, the Chinese people, the green people, till we all, I'm serious, till we all get together and fight the powers that be or whoever's against a certain group of people, nothing's going to change.
I would love to listen, though, to our green community listeners. I really would love that.
Yeah, step up, green people.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Where's our Skeeter Valentine?
Oh, the throwback. I think one of the things that we clicked on was like we talked a lot about when we were working at Reprise together, like misogyny. We talked a lot about that with LGBTQ stuff. Not that it's happened at Reprise, like we just happened to work there when we were talking. And I'm saying that for legal reasons. No, I think you're a really good ally to the queer community, because you stop and listen, and you have your own way of being an ally. There's more than one way to be an ally, and you're the rally the troops ally type. And I know Ryan and everybody who's on other sales name Ashley is listening to this, right? Like, we all know what I mean, but there's always that one person that they're the archetype of an ally of, like, I'm the rally the troops person, and that is definitely Jamie. You're the listen, he's playing nice, I don't play nice. You raise your hand and go, if you want to be afraid of somebody, it's me you should be afraid of. Like, you're that
seriously,
ally. Somebody has to be that person. Somebody in every version of allyship, somebody has to play that role, and you do it flawlessly. So thank you.
Thank you.
With the exception of some things that we've talked about when it comes to food preferences, and your song choices are awful, but I'll forgive. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Eye of the Tiger, really? Anyway,
you're getting Eye of the Tiger sent to your house, blaring out the window. Don't say anything.
Other than having this is the last one. Other than having the audacity to like Eye of the Tiger, what is your guilty pleasure after a long day?
White cheddar popcorn.
Okay, I'll forgive it. That's fine. I like that stuff too.
Smart brand? Food, white cheddar popcorn, and extra sweet tea.
Ooh, tell me you're from Michigan without telling me you're from Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Do you get the ranch seasoned ones? I get the ranch ones.
I do not. I just get the white cheddar.
I'll forgive it.
The black bag, Smart Food.
I'll forgive it.
Our office actually keeps that on hand. It's lovely. It's like a nice little afternoon snack.
I do. I keep little bags of it. It's so cute. It's a
They're like little 100 calorie or something, 80 calorie.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
So before Ryan tells you where you can find Other Side of Sales, where can we find you, Jamie? And yes, if you're talking too fast, by the way, all these things will be in the show notes below.
I am on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, and I work at Reprise, of course. So you can
book a demo.
If you need a demo, product tour,
hit up Jamie. All right, Ryan, tell these people where they can find our lovely faces.
Yeah, as always, you can find us on LinkedIn at The Other Side of Sales.
Other Side Sales on Instagram. The Other Side of Sales on LinkedIn. Twitter.
OS_pod.
Yes. That's what it is. And if you find where I live, I will sue you. So do not find me that well. Find me online. Don't find me in person.
Yeah, preferably me either.
Yeah, no, don't. Ryan's open house. We'll cook for you, hot dogs, like the whole barbecue. But here, I don't know why. I don't know, just strike me as somebody who would love to make hot dogs. I don't know why. But
bratwursts are fire. But
there you go. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But find me and Jamie. No.
Oh, that is too much.
Well, I guess thank y'all for listening.
Thank you for having me.